Hi, this is Runa, and you're listening to the Changemakers podcast, where we share tips, insight, tools, and stories from other changemakers designed to motivate you to become the change you want to see in your world. Make sure you join our Changemakers community at runamagnus.com/podcast. And now, this is your time to sit back, relax, and enjoy. Well, good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. It's Runa here, the Changemakers podcast, with a very special guest, Jo Simpson, the woman who can tell us everything about value-based leadership. And if we are not living in a world right now that is in deep need of awareness around value-based leadership, I don't know when we have not been there. Welcome, Jo, to the Changemakers podcast.
Thanks, Runa. It's great to be on here at last.
At last, exactly. Now, Jo, just to tell you a little bit about Jo, she is the author of one of my favorite books, actually, The Restless Executive. It's a book that really made me personally want to go and dig deeper into my own values. And I've been using that with my clients quite a bit, because I think how Jo goes about when it comes to knowing and discovering your values and how to live your values. It's just such a practical yet profoundly insightful way to do so. And I know this is a topic that we often hear people talk about their values or the business or the organizational values, but I'm skeptical. And I would love to hear your view on that, Jo. Are we living our values?
That's a big question. Are we living our values? I think there are some people that are, obviously, and I think there's a lot of people that believe they are, but when it comes down to it, they've not gone to a deep enough level, one, to discover and define what the values are, and then two, to actually, how do you really show up and live them every day? How do you honour them? And the values path is the most rewarding one, and it's not the easiest one.
Yeah.
Are people really having those conversations that they want to have, speaking their truth? As we were just talking before we came on, and the time of this recording, we're just off the back of Oprah's acceptance speech by the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
And when you know your values, you are better able to speak your truth, because you are being true to yourself, and then you don't come away with this restless feeling, which is the title of the book. And the decisions that we make, how many decisions are people not making? How many conversations are people not having for whatever reason? Normally, ultimately, a fear of what do other people think, or if I say that, I'll get fired, or this might happen, or that. And we don't get the movement forward that we want. And, the sort of time we are on the planet now, are we in this place? Are we being forced to really look at who we are? Because we, and I'm using we in the global we, haven't done it in a proactive way. And it's taken I call them the steamrollers of life. Do we listen to the nudges? And if we don't, ultimately something comes and knocks us down. In personal life, it might be a heart attack, a redundancy, a relationship breakup. And then we're forced to stop and take stock. And I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, exactly. There is a huge task ahead for people like yourself, a change maker, helping leaders and helping organizations to actually live their truth. That is a big purpose. I'm always curious, and when I go into businesses or organizations and I see those values written on their wall, I don't know, I'm skeptical. I wondered how much work have they gone through to align everyone in their team to those words that are out there. Can you tell us a little bit, what is your experience of that?
I'm always skeptical too, because they look nice on these nice branding boards. And I was going to say mouse mats, but they're a bit outdated, aren't they? But Yes, it depends how the process has been done. Is it, okay, what words do we want to represent us? How do we make them look? But really, the process I use is to lead from the inside out. And people may have heard that phrase, but actually, if you really take the time to strip it back, what does that mean? And rather than organizations, well, I appreciate within organizations, values are probably already set and are already there and in place. I mean, they can be changed. But to get individuals to align to them, or in an ideal world, to create the values in the first place, to start within the hearts of each individual. So you've often got individuals who actually don't know who they are and what's important to them. So how on earth can you ever expect people, and probably explain, to fully align with the values of a company if they actually don't know what theirs are and how to act in alignment with them?
Yeah. Here's where I think, would you say then that those organizations that actually go through the deep work and allow all members of their team to understand their values and how they are aligned to the company's or the organizational values, the outcome of that work, I understand, yes, it does cost to go through that. Yes, it's a process. Yes, it takes time. All of those obstacles that many might actually look as obstacles and something that they can't go through. Would you say, have you seen the outcome that those organizations that have gone through it are showing out there in the world? And now I'm actually going into a branding thought, actually thinking about how do they actually stand out? Are they standing out, the ones who are doing it or not?
Yes, I believe they are, and I can't name them, but I can think of a couple of clients I've worked with. So I've got the inside information, and I've worked with a very, very large global corporate with part of the organisation. And one of my phrases is always go where the energy is. So if the senior leadership teams are not interested, and you've got another team that is and is willing to run, go there, because that's where the momentum will start. Building up a values-based organisation takes time. And a lot of companies want fast results. And it's being prepared to actually know, because once you start investing and getting individuals to look at who they are, how they operate, and then build up through, okay, what does this team stand for? And how do we honour this? Checking in regularly at meetings, checking in on a daily basis. You then start to see results shift. Where people want to see it, they want to see it on the bottom line, but it's always the engagement, the productivity, the motivation. And by people really taking the time to do this, it gives people a sense of worth, of, this is who I am. And it's completely transformative, because you say the word values, and oh yeah, we've got family values, and oh yeah, my values are integrity and truth and respect. And I'm not here to knock any of that, but I'm here to challenge it, because it's not the full picture. And then if you do know or believe what your values are, what do they mean to you? How do you set your boundaries in line with them? What is the priority order of your values, and how does it affect your decisions? How does it affect how you project them onto other people, and how others are triggered you? How do you then work consciously with who you are and what your values? Because we will be challenged, triggered on them every day in some way, shape or form. We'll also be in alignment with them. I mean, when we're feeling great and alive and full of joy, we don't tend to go, hey, which values are we living right now? Well, you do if you've come through some work with me. But there's more to it, which is why I wrote the book. And we can be in conflict with our own values. We can have we can get restless because one value wants to take us towards freedom, but another value might want to take us towards being secure. And then we might step into somebody else's and just think, well, path of least resistance, I'll do what this is, and we get in a mess. And the same thing keeps recurring until we break out of it.
That is just a good way of showing it and talking about it. But and I think maybe when that happens, because we're in the puddle, we think, this value bit, useless.
Mm.
when we give up. And yeah, so it does take, what I'm taking from what you're saying, it does take courageous leaders and management team to go full force with it, but the result are happier, more content team.
Yeah.
And speaking of values, that's valuable.
It is.
Yeah. So where do you see, we've been the change makers, we've been looking at how we can help organizations to create magnetic cultures.
I love that.
And I would love to hear from you, from the value perspective. What would you, if you were coming into a company or organization and who wants to build a magnetic culture, what would you tell them to do? What would be the first steps for them to do?
To start with the individuals, not go outside and not, hey, let's get in a room and create who we are and what we stand for. That comes, but to give the opportunity for each individual to know what it is that drives them. And, some of the questions, there's many questions you can ask to elicit values, but I like to keep it simple. So I'll share just 3 key ones, if that's okay.
That would be great.
By asking what's important, it stands to reason if something's important, it's likely to be in line with it's likely to be a value. Or, you might say what's important to work as part of a team. And then go a bit further. What does working as part of a team give you? So one person might say belonging, one might say connection, one might say creativity. And that's when you start hearing the values, because we're not all the same. So don't just stop at what's important, teamwork. What does that give you? Connection, belonging, creativity, etc. And so on. And keep asking that question, vary it. What's important to you in your work? What's important to you in your life outside of work? And very often people will say, my family, which you expect. And again, take that deeper. Don't just take family as the value. What does family give you? And you may well start hearing the same words. Oh, belonging, connection, fun, love. And it's those words that are likely to be the values. Second question, what do you enjoy doing? Again, if you enjoy something, you're likely to be living your values. Or, well, I enjoy it when we start a new project. Okay, what is it about that? Oh, it's new experiences and newness. And you hear people light up when they're talking about what they love. So you start to hear the words. What do you enjoy outside of work, in work? And again, you can cross-pollinate the answers. And the third question, what frustrates you? A bit of a therapy session here, but what frustrates you? One of the things that really frustrates me is lies and deceit. So then the question becomes, what's the opposite of that that's important? Well, the opposite of that for me is truth. For somebody else, it might be honesty, it might be integrity, but for me, it's truth. And so truth is one of my top values.
Yeah, listening to you, I can envision a conversation like that, asking those 3 questions will give you an awful lot of insight into the character, into the truth, speaking of truth, into the true person that you have in front of you.
Yes.
Going beyond whatever the degree is or the experience they've had or the knowledge that they have, but you go into their truth.
Absolutely. And, it might then just be for somebody that they might be doing the wrong things in their role and it needs a tweak, or how they see their work. I remember one lady I worked with a few years ago, and turned out one of her values was adventure. And she got really upset. She said, Jo, I'm not honouring it. I used to go rock climbing and all sorts of different sports before I had my children. And she said, I'm not honouring my value of adventure. So first step was, okay, how can you start honouring it? Second was, I said, how can you see your work as an adventure? She said, I've never even thought of that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's your top value. So wouldn't it be great if you brought that into your work?
Wow, that's a transformation in your mindset.
And she's still working for the same company and she's doing really well. And I see her pretty regularly and she's like, Jo, it's never gone away. Every day I see my work as an adventure. It changed.
I love it.
Everything.
I love it. That is so inspiring. So really, for people just to be aligned with who they are, what their values are, they can make the choice of how they're going to show up every single day, living their values, finding that thing that makes them feeling happy and content. Oh yeah, I'm so with you on that one. Yeah, just love it. I'm speechless, actually. I'm just thinking about my own journey a year ago when I rediscovered my values, and 3 days later, I transformed my career myself, which came from your session, by the way. Yeah, but now you're showing me there are so many different ways to it, and what you just pointed out, I think, is so important for people to understand that it doesn't really have to mean that you have to turn around your life. You just have to find that perspective, that angle that makes you feel fulfilled. Thank you so much for that. That's beautiful. One final question for anyone that is in a management role and really does want to drive through the positive change that they want to make in their environment and become the change that they want to see in their lives. And what would you say is, from your perspective, working on such a deep level in this field? What would you tell them to do? What would be your advice?
Okay, the first step would be just tune in and listen, because they do know the answer of what's next. There's something that will be stopping. It could be a fear, a limiting belief. But first of all, what is that thought that doesn't go away, that keeps popping back up and making you restless? And so the first step is listen to that. I'll give the how-to in a minute. I won't just leave. Okay, sorry, great. Listen to it, Jo. But then what do we do with it? Listen to that. Take some time to discover your values. Get a copy of The Restless Executive and work through that, or however you want to do it, come and do a workshop. But whatever way works for you, just start by asking those questions I shared earlier. What's important to you? What do you enjoy? What frustrates you? Just get a sense of what your values could be. Mm-hmm. And then know that if you take a decision that's in line with your values, it has to work. It has to, because you're being true to yourself. Now, does that mean you're not going to get any challenges? No, it doesn't. But it means you might have to go on a hero's journey and go through some challenges to ultimately get it, but it will work. And baby steps. I run workshops, and one lady once came a few years ago, and by the Monday she'd actually quit everything she was doing and changed everything. Now, it worked for her, and you said, Runa, you changed things. And some people that works for, some people need a longer lead in. So know yourself, and as soon as you start taking one step, it opens up more possibilities and doors, and it allows you to go to the next place and the next place. So
exactly. So it really starts with listening. Thank you, Jo. This was very insightful. It was. And you gave me a new perspective into value-based leadership, which I truly, truly, truly hope we're going to see more of in this world. So thank you for sharing your gift to this world. We need you. This world needs you. Thank you, Jo.
Loved it as always.
Was this podcast of value for you? I sure hope so. If so, feel free to share the love and give us your generous review on iTunes or Stitcher. And remember that you can always go to runamagnus.com to find out more about the Changemakers and how we can help you drive the change you want to see in your world.